Buenas Zanipasu Gagigi Hamzu. I'm Troy Torres. Welcome to this evening's edition of Candid News. It is the evening of June 15, 2023. And before I go any further, a happy 10th birthday in heaven to Asher Dean Lebowski. Asher Dean, we never met you, but we love you. Earlier this afternoon, we had the opportunity to speak in our very first interview with Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio. We had the interview at the temporary dump site over at Teton, asking the Lieutenant Governor a host of questions, starting off with the situation with the refugees and also the homelessness situation caused by Typhoon Mawar. The conversation got into a whole bunch of areas, including a surprise announcement from the Lieutenant Governor that emergency or disaster food stamps have been approved for those who are not on the SNAP program. Without further ado, here's our interview. So I'm live here in Teton with Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio. We're over at the site, the temporary dump site, and we just met him over here. He has got a very busy day and a very busy night ahead, and so he agreed to meet us here to talk to us about the recovery effort, the human aspects of this recovery effort. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor, for joining us.
Half a day to the people of Guam.
So we'll get right into it because I know you're very busy.
Thanks for the time.
No, thank you for the time. Thank you for the time. What is the condition, especially up north?
Well, I had an opportunity to, a few days after the typhoon, go up there with the National Guard on our own, their asset, our chopper. The hardest hit neighborhoods, as you know, because your team was up there last night. It's the Gilbaza, the Zero Down, the Gil Breeze, and then the Chamorro Land Trust areas, really where we have a lot of our people that are living in homes that could not withstand that kind of wind, right? And this is not a new issue, but to me, what it does is it puts more urgency, but also maybe some opportunities for us to figure out how to help people rebuild stronger, a bit more resilient, right? I think the other thing that I'd say is we have a lot of debris up north. I'm in charge of the IBTF, and I've been working on trying to get these vehicles out, especially abandoned vehicles and white goods. There are thousands and thousands and thousands that have been uncovered because all the greenery is out. And I've been telling US EPA and Department of Defense and the Army Corps and FEMA that on top of the crisis from the typhoon, we have a long-standing crisis of all these things on top of the aquifer that need to get out of here. And clearly we don't have enough land on Guam to do this. We need to figure out ways not only to empower ourselves, but to get the outside help, because Guam is a lot of DOD stuff is happening here, to get this stuff off the island. Make sure that we get all of the hazardous materials out of there, and also to get our people to be able to have an opportunity to have a clean place, where kids are not going to get hurt going to the schools, or, even just going home. That's what I can see.
A lot of this stuff behind us over here, the tire central, the tire depot right here, the white goods right over there.
Right.
Why don't we walk and talk? And what are there solutions through FEMA and SBA for, say, the Chamorro Land Trust, people who lost their homes? And then what are the solutions for those who are non-U.S. citizens and can't avail of the federal programs for home repair?
So one thing that I have to tell people, a lot of people, they're getting a letter of denial from FEMA and a referral to SBA, right? And some people might be thinking, I don't want to get a loan. I might not be able to get a loan. But what we've asked FEMA to do and explain a little bit better, the cash assistance that you can get on top of your temporary housing, all of it stems from an SBA loan application. If you get denied on the SBA loan application, you have a good likelihood to get direct cash assistance for the loss of your personal goods and things.
From FEMA?
Right.
Oh, I don't think people know that.
No, they don't. And this is a little different because when we had Typhoon Paka and Pangsanwa, right, it was sort of a direct thing. Here, they're funneling it through SBA, but it comes back, and now the number of people that have been referred to SBA is in the thousands, but the actual people that have actually completed the application is only in the hundreds. So this is an area there that they need to go. And the other thing is, when people are getting denied either eligibility or things, they really need to look at the document to see what they're missing. Sometimes, and including today, I found out in the Rise Up program, I think 50 families got denied, but it's because they're just missing maybe one document they need to get in there, right?
So it's not really a denial; it's more of an ineligibility
And
pending.
don't give up. So I have to say that the Public Defenders Corporation, Micronesian Legal Services, Maniatlu, they've coming up to try and help people look at these things. Not everybody can understand. Sometimes you know how it is; it gets a little technical.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, go into the centers and have them walk it through you. In Alahan, Sinahanya centers are not receiving much traffic, and that's a perfect place for you to get the help to go through what is needed. Pretty much, there's a workaround for people that if they don't have, and a lot of the people that got hit are from the freely associated states, right?
Yes.
We think most of them have at least a child on the premises that is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident that can allow them to get qualified. So FEMA, what they've done, and this is a lesson they learned from Saipan, they're letting minors be the applicants.
Okay.
There are families that don't have it. Like when I was at the Stumble shelter the other day, and I was asking, is there any citizen, right? So the ones that don't have citizenship, there is an issue there. And the Red Cross is going to come in for some gap, right? To try and get people some resources. And we're looking at ways to try and get people resources to go and go back on their land. Some of them, and I think just even today in some of the neighborhoods, they're already rebuilding. In fact, today, some of the Rise Up military help is already in there. Just a few of the structures, right, that can qualify. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen.
Not for the
that,
U.S. Army Corps
right?
program.
But for the FEMA stuff, you do. And so after this, we'll be doing. There's a lot of case management happening. That they're kind of piecing this together. And this is where the partnership with us, Red Cross, Office of Homelessness, and everybody trying to figure out what the needs of the families are and how we can get it to them. Now, the other thing is HUD, and we've been talking to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They don't have the exclusion for the FSM folks, right? They can be part of that. There is a preference, though, in their statutes on citizenship, but because there's a disaster, there might be other things going on, and we have some feds flying in first thing, actually over the weekend, so they can help us kind of piece this together. I've seen, in the Gil Breeze, I've been looking at maps and seeing what they're doing, trying to piece this together and figuring out how to get the help to those families. But I think that we'll probably have a few that might not be able to qualify for the FEMA stuff, but there might be other stuff coming in that we can look in on the HUD side through GURA.
So, Lieutenant Governor, how do we better communicate these possibilities to people? Because there are so many people who don't see these as possibilities because they don't know.
Right. Well, I think we all have to do a better job in the federal government and in local government and the nonprofits to try and make the information a bit more clear. Even sometimes, I'll be honest with you, even some of this stuff we are just finding out, and part of it is piecing it together and coming back out and getting the info. It's so important that you're up on the air now. And for media to get back on the air, because that's the one thing that I think made people even much more nervous, because unlike when we grew up and we had these typhoons, we didn't have reliable communications. And it's kind of one of those things where technology got so good, but it also, what used to be 13 cell sites is now 400 sites, right, that need power and stuff. So I think pushing the message, getting you asking those things, and then us pushing, helping to get the word. I think there's still teams out there canvassing, and everybody that's being registered. That's the other place where I'm asking already for who's on the denial list. How can we in the government come together, perhaps in a call center or going out on site to try and help piece this together? things don't happen overnight. But the other thing is we can help each other, right? Some people, have been successful in getting the help, or some people were they're maybe a bit more business oriented, and they can help their friends or the family members. Because part of it too is we need to help each other up.
Let's talk about the shelters, the conditions of the shelters. There was a news release that came out of the governor's office today, and it appears that elected officials, mayors, senators, the governor, yourself, are on the same page here with, okay, we got to find a new shelter
Yeah.
to replace the Timuning one. It's got to have more humane conditions for
Yeah.
the people living there. So what are the options, Lieutenant Governor?
So first of all, Guam Pack, we didn't get the shelter for them, right? For Red Cross, they have people that are out there. I tried to look at Samaseni for them. Some of the facilities, they're a little intimidated because of how much it might need to cost, right, to repair them. Some of them is just if water is not as strong to help, that's an issue. Shelter numbers have gone down. There are a lot of people that are leaving because they have now power and water. In fact, 80% of the current shelter inhabitants want to go back home, and they're waiting for power or water. As it restores, we're seeing now people moving back. And then we have the folks that just have no place to go, right? The Stumbo Gymnasium is better ventilated. It was constructed to be a tier 2 shelter, which it is, and we're talking to them about looking at it and making sure that they provide good options. I think, to me, all options are on the table. What happened is, Red Cross was able to go and immediately get into lease agreements and give checks. So even for me going out there, right, I deployed I asked GRA to deploy their realtors on contract, find a place. The reality is that a lot of the commercial real estate has gotten eaten up and we have little challenges in getting housing. We have apartment buildings that have been bought up. Some of them are being used as barracks, and some of them are not ready for being inhabited. So I would just say that, to me, I think all options are on the table. We've talked to Red Cross, about an option. Are they gonna? People are suggesting renting hotels. The reality is there's a little less hotel rooms operational right now, but I know that they're looking at that, and we're looking at that. But making sure it's sustainable and making sure that that's really going to be the best place for them, right? I know that the families that got flu, are sick and need isolation, are being are in a hotel right now getting care. I know public health is on site with their nursing staff and their public health staff, offering testing, trying to get everybody the kind of help they need. And of course, there's a lot of volunteers trying to push meals out. But from day one, when we went up there, when Red Cross let us know they were going to Guam Pack, we knew that there was a ventilation. We told them. And I know they're trying their best to get ventilation. And even as early as about an hour ago, talking to the lead Red Cross official, a lot of the concerns that have been raised, they feel that they are getting their handle on it. The bathrooms, the trash that wasn't picked up.
They're asking if they can have more consistent trash service. By the way, I was there yesterday. Betsy is her name, the director.
Yeah,
she was asking about.
So that. Yeah, and they told us that they were able to get their provider to do it because all of these kinds of things, right? I think they contracted directly. We're offering, and try and get them the support, but I think that the pressure is on for sure to make sure that we get people to a reasonable condition, right? But the bigger thing is getting these folks the tools they need, and if they can, to return back to their homes. That's where they want to be. Some of the folks that I've been talking to up there, they want to go home. And maybe they might not be able to go home right now. And we're now talking with the Red Cross and our human service teams, coming up with the transition plans and funding them so they can get to where they need to be.
What about the idea that Timuning Mayor Luis Rivera said that she contacted you and the governor, and Senator Jesse Lujan sent a letter
About
to
Chief
you guys,
Brody?
Chief Brody or LBJ or Timuning Elementary?
So So number one, we don't control the schools, right? The schools got into the shelter business for emergency shelter because they're the ones that have the facilities, right? Normally, we would have Jigo Gym, Tamuning Gym, Aganya Heights Gym, but uh, Jigo, Jotnia, Talofufo all have damage. Aganya Heights and Tamuning, as you've been seeing, have been in the process of repair. So we don't have we can't just say, hey, look, we're taking Brody since DOE is not under us. We're talking to them, and the pressure for DOE is they have 7 weeks to go to school starts. They have a new law that mandates them to go and try and get the sanitation conditions clean so they could get a permit to operate. And what they're honest telling us, listen, by going onto a school property, you're compromising our opportunity to reopen, and you're going to also affect now hundreds and hundreds more kids in the community. So, the conversation with DOE is not over yet. I mean, it just is based on the number of people we have and what kind of options we can give them. I think everything's on the table, but like for Jess, right? The reality is, if we wanted to take the school and they didn't want it to take it school, we couldn't take the school. Things are a little different. It's like power and water. I have an auntie scolding me every day because she doesn't have the power, and I'm telling her, I said, I mean, it's almost one of those things where I'm relying on. I'm confident everybody's doing their good work. I can't verify because I'm not in there. We don't have. That's the difference in the disasters. But I do have to say, I feel people want to do the right thing. And when there's a problem like this or an issue like this, we just need to come together and try and roll it out. That's why, even though DOE is under the gun, I'd say, to me, everything's still on the table. We just have to see, what the best option is and the time, right? So getting them out of Guam Pac, but, things can't stay the way they are anyway while they're there. There has to be an improvement, with circulation or, I know the guard was there looking at ventilation, bringing in these air units, things like that. It's all happening at the same time.
So, Lieutenant Governor, what's next, or what is immediately next on the agenda for you and the governor to help the people of Guam through all of this?
So there's the individual's needs, right? That's going on, trying to make sure that the aid packages and programs that the residents are able to apply to are getting out there. Your next week, you'll get some more specific information, but we're looking forward to getting the disaster snap on. Live video. You didn't get right. No, now. You didn't get it. It's gone. Anyway, you're going to see us coming up with some instructions. We've identified areas, confirming those areas, so people that lost food during the disaster that are not SNAP or better known as food stamp recipients can go and apply. There is adjusted.
Have we been approved for that program?
We are approved. The feds are refining their plans. What will happen is you'll go in, you'll have to apply. Everything is self-attestation, meaning that when you fill out the paper and they ask you for your income, what your bills are, and all your assets, you're not going to be asked to bring any documentation that proves that. It's going to be based on your word, right?
But don't lie, people.
Right.
Don't lie to the federal government.
Right. By the way, if you lie, there's a thing called fraud. Don't do it. So the income requirements obviously are going to be more than what normally it's basically 400%
FPL or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's a dollar amount that the feds have on a register, that what your take home pay is, right? For every 2 weeks. And how many people in your family. And so you'll be able to do that. We have multiple locations around the island, convenient ones that I'll wait for public health to announce, because you know how that is, for you to go out there and apply for additional assistance for your homes, right? The other thing that we're looking at...
I'm sorry, additional assistance for your home, for food for your homes?
Food for your homes, right? A lot of people lost food, right? Or just need that additional help. So that's going to come up when they get approved. Then they'll be given a card, and then in 72 hours after you get approved, they'll load up the money into your card.
This is great news.
Right, it is. So you'll see that. You'll also see the government going out there getting more food commodities so that we can push out to the residents. You'll start seeing more opportunities for businesses coming online. So, Small Business Administration, there it's so interesting because people get puzzled. Why is FEMA telling me to apply with SBA, right? I don't have a business. It's just that the feds use that process to get all the information.
So that's part of the agenda is getting better communication out to the public
Right,
about these
and
programs.
also monitoring how much money is coming out so that we understand. But you'll also see us expanding opportunities to bring in more food commodities and pushing it out. Priority for me is also monitoring the power and water restoration and looking at the pockets that remain, and then in the big picture, what are we going to do now to make sure that doesn't happen again? So GPA, good to out of 20,000 power poles, only 140 some got down. But now, what is it going to take to make the recovery much more speedy, right? And then the water. We got people in Manila, we got people in Chalampago, smaller pockets. 92% of the island now has water. But clearly there's some opportunities and priorities for us to put in booster pumps that have never existed to try and make sure that we harden things. The other thing I would say is I see us. The reality is there's a lot of military going on here. And so I see the mayors are going to be able to use their sister unit relationships to get more people in the military out there, away from the FEMA rules and more back to the community outreach that we're used to seeing. We're going to see more of that, and then I think that we're also going to be making sure that we get the economy moving back on the tourism side,
Okay.
right? So you see us cleaning up the parks, making sure we get debris. I'll tell you, there's a lot of debris here on this island, and this is also our opportunity to clean up this island, right? Um, thousands
Look
of
at all that.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, thousands of abandoned vehicles all up north. I mean, this is a danger for everybody. That we got to get rid of this stuff, right? I kind of mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier, and I see that that's those are the opportunities that we have. Also, we have to leverage what we have. If we're very critical for the defense of the country and the world, then there's definitely much more attention for us to use that.
Well, I want to, before I ask you to look in the camera and talk directly to our audience, I do want to ask you about that. Ginger Cruz with Manted, she, in an interview with Think Tech Hawaii, mentioned that it would take $6 billion to move the island's power infrastructure underground. I'm assuming the transmission and distribution lines. I'm not quite sure. And she alluded to leveraging exactly what you said, this sort of relationship, the importance of Guam to the federal government, to have the military or the federal government make that investment and pay for that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that obvious. I haven't seen what's behind the 6 billion amount. It's probably a calculus, right? But I think what's reachable is the main transmission lines and trying to put those underground. Now, the reality is that there's going to be a missile defense system here, and it's going to be the military will reveal to us what that is, but what it means when I'm seeing their announcements and all their operating sites, they need reliable power out there. Why wouldn't a village that is nearby this be able to benefit from the infrastructure coming in? And we're already talking to DoD. That's kind of like a big priority for us. There's got to be an improvement of the quality of life for the people of Guam when these assets are being placed here, right? And we have this window of opportunity to try and get more for the people to harden the infrastructure, right?
So this is already part of the discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Already.
Okay.
I mean, telecom. Let me just give you a little window on.
Maybe we get a news release from your office about this. Is a pretty big deal if this conversation's already happening.
Yeah, well, I would say that this is our, no matter what, right? We have an office that is already focused on this. For example, the Northern Treatment Water,
Yes.
wastewater treatment facility was funded from DOD, right? So this is not like a new news, but I think what we'll do is I'll talk to them and kind of maybe map out what the right way forward is. But there's a whole bunch of priority infrastructure projects that we've already listed as necessary for Guam. Things like roads, things like water and power, and then this new thing that we have to look at is telecommunications, right? All telecom is privatized, and in fact, even Gov Guam didn't have knowledge immediately of where all the assets are. And we spoke with the leaders of telecom yesterday, so we can go through process, identify those critical infrastructure, make sure that there's an opportunity for it to be reliable, because that's one thing. Remember back then we got Typhoon Pocket, we got the landline. Nobody has a landline, and by the way, the technology moves. So I think that's the other front that we have to look at, because the telecommunications kind of, that already was 1 week into, how are you going to tell people to go to which well if they're not out there able to communicate back to you, right? I mean, I think there's that. And then on the fuel side, really what I see is looking and making sure that we go and uh, increase the capacity, down there at the fuel racks. That's what was happening down there, right? We have the fuel, it was the logistics of it. And also, I think Gov Guam needs to take a look. And I think it was been like 25 years since we had fuel storage. We need to have it so that we don't impact the residents, right? We all gotta kind of move together. So what you can expect, no matter what, in a disaster, we have to look for what are the opportunities, right? We're all dealing with a hardship. Some people have a bigger hardship than others, no question. But that means that we know now where else we need to uh, uh, push money to, that we have access to, or make decisions, guide us on how the money that we do have, how we push it.
Lieutenant Governor, without getting into, I know I said one more thing, but just one more thing, without getting into the details of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, are you going to be, are you going to take an active role in the hot wash or in the after report of this whole thing? What could have been done better? What went wrong?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But the other thing is, the governor has tasked me to lead the hazard mitigation program. So all of the program that goes and then looks at these infrastructure to help us come up with the priorities for where the money is. That's where you'll see me. But you'll also see me. My core responsibility is going to be cleaning up this island, and trying to make sure that we get as much of this stuff done. Another core responsibility of mine is the homeless problem, right? And I'm going to be working with HUD and GURA to get a drop-in center for all those folks that really are not probably prepared to have a home yet, or to be in some rules, but can be used in the future for this kind of thing, where we have folks that might have to be in someone's care indefinitely. And then you'll see me also adding more, all these gyms that are being repaired. I'm going to add more and make sure that they're prepared to be shelters, having those water tanks and reliable power, so that the schools we can take the burden away from the schools as much as possible, but have flexibility to be able to shelter people, knowing that the schools have a primary mission, which is to educate the kids. So that's where you'll see some of me. Of course, I'll be there to help on the economic stuff, but I would say I'll also look at my core areas that I need to make sure I deliver for everybody.
And so one of the more comforting components of a disaster response is people seeing their leaders. And so if I could just ask you, you could look directly to the camera and speak directly to the people of Guam and whatever message you want to give to them.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. We're all in this together. Some people have more than others, but we've been through so much, and we have overcome so much. It's in our DNA. If our grandparents can overcome war and murder, and give us the gift of Guam to build up and provide a better place, then that's what we're all in it together. I'll just say that, we're working nonstop. A lot of people are out there working, doing their best. When we're not doing their best, or other people are, we need to try. We'll go back and even work harder. For the people that don't have the water, to me, water is the most basic thing that you need. We're working really with Waterworks and trying to push that out to you, trying to understand what else we can do, anything that we can do to help them do their job and get water restored. We're doing it. That's why we have the conservation notice going on right now. Concerned about your safety. That's why EPA and Public Health are testing the water there is to make sure that it's safe. Folks with power, I'll just say this: if you have a home or you can help your family and your neighbors, that's what we're supposed to do. Help each other, because we can get through all of this. And I promise you that things are gonna get much better. We just have to make sure everybody does as much as they can, and that I'll leave you this one note, a good story. One of the FEMA inspectors out there in Sinahanya happened to catch, there's another one, one of the FEMA inspectors happened to, when they're talking to the resident, caught a house fire as it was happening, and were able to actually help the resident respond. Put the resident didn't even know, and really save their property. So sometimes, to me, the moral of the story is sometimes we're out there, and it doesn't hurt to just do that extra thing and try and help each other out, because I think that's what makes Guam so special.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
Stephanie, I'm so sorry that we took so much of his time. You guys are, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.